Words have impact and words have power. Everyone needs to understand what words mean before they repeat them, before they shout them, before they defend them. That attack in Sydney is exactly what it means to globalize intifada.
Ah, yes, New York Democrat Mayor Eric Adams explaining what the phrase globalize the intifada means. They're chanting it on college campuses in New York City. They're chanting it on college campuses across America because the Democrat Party is really kind of like the Nazi Party of the 1930s. Can't think of anybody that's worse. Although there's a fun story out of California. The Democrat governor, Gavin Newsom, he is known for his hair. Gavin Newsom's communications director slams Nicki Minaj, calls her a stupid hoe. Nicki Minaj. Now, that's one of Nicki Minaj's big songs, Stupid Hoe. It is, we believe, autobiographical in nature. But Gavin Newsom's communications director attacks Nicki Minaj and calls her a stupid hoe. That's H-O-E, like the gardening implement, the gardening implement. After rapper called out governor's trans agenda. By trans agenda, I mean I believe they mean transgender agenda. Isn't that great? California Governor is Gavin Newsom's Director of Communications, Izzy Garden, Gardon, misspelled, no matter how you slice it, appeared to refer to rapper Nicki Minaj as a stupid hoe after the musician criticized the Democratic governor. Minaj sounded off on Democrat Governor Gavin Newsom in a series of social media posts after he recently told the New York Times, Ezra Klein, about his desire to see trans kids and his support for pro-transgender legislation. He wants to see more transgender kids because they're all sexual deviants. Imagine being a guy running on wanting to see trans kids, Nicki Minaj said. Not even a trans adult would run on that. Normal adults wake up and think they want to see healthy, safe, happy kids, not gav-nots, gav-outs sent in a text. I'm bored, right? But then the Nicki Minaj is a real piece of work. Our culture is choking to death on our own vomit, honestly. She concluded that it was the end of the road for his career, suggesting that he ought to do something else instead. Gavi Poo. That's calling the governor Gavi Poo. It only gets worse from here on for you, buddy. It's the end of the road for you, my love, she wrote. Isn't that great? Now, Gardon, the communications director, indirectly responded to Nicki Minaj's comments on X on Saturday after posting an image of a T-shirt with Nicki Minaj's name and face on it on a trash bin, and the communications director just wrote, stupid hoe. That's, they're keeping it classy, I think, is really their goal here. Also, there's a funny story that I saw today that Senator Ted Cruz, is saying that Ilhan Omar might face charges and could face deportation. Ilhan Omar, if marriage allegation proves true. This has been going on for a long time now. The headline is, Cruz says Representative Ilhan Omar could face jail time, deportation if marriage allegation proves true. Senate Republican outlines potential charges, including marriage fraud and tax violations, after Trump's rally comments. Now, we've all known about this for years, marrying her brother to cheat the welfare system, and maybe she thinks he's cute. A top Senate Republican argued that if allegations against squad member Representative Ilhan Omar, Democrat, Minnesota, that she married her brother to enter the U.S. were true, she'd be breaking several laws. Ted Cruz, Texas Republican, joined the longstanding scrutiny against Ilhan Omar, after President Donald Trump revived the allegations during a rally pushing for affordability at his Pennsylvania rally earlier this week. That's last week now. In a post on X responding to a White House social media account that charged, yes, Ilhan Omar married her brother. Ted Cruz listed a trio of federal and state laws that the progressive lawmaker would have violated and said that, potentially, he said, if this is true, then Omar faces criminal liability under 3 different statutes. Cruz argued that Ilhan Omar could have committed federal marriage fraud, which stipulates that it's a felony to knowingly enter into a marriage to evade immigration laws, and could lead to up to 5 years in prison, a $250,000 fine, and deportation. I think that sounds excellent. We should see if that could happen. That'd be real good. Real good. All right, now let me get back to a bit of audio here because those are fun. Now, we're again, I touched on a few of the jihad-related things we've seen lately in Washington, D.C., 2 National Guard members gunned down, 1 murdered, 1 very severely wounded by a jihadi who was yelling Allahu Akbar while he gunned them down, right? We had the 2 employees of the Israeli embassy gunned down and murdered, both of them at the Jewish Museum, by a Latino guy from Chicago who was yelling, free, free Palestine, right? We had the Democrat self-immolate at the Israeli embassy and kill himself. Democrat member of the Air Force shouldn't allow Democrats to join the U.S. military. Shouldn't allow them to own guns. Shouldn't allow them to fly in commercial airplanes. They're too dangerous. We've had a lot of, the Democrats, they bring in these radicals to go to campuses in New York City and spread, globalize the Intifada and death to Israel and wipe it out from the river to the sea. You know, these are Democrat Party chants, along with Al-Qaeda and ISIS. Aren't they something? Brown University, we still don't know who the killer is. Manhunt underway. They had a person of interest, a suspect in custody for a period of time. Then they let him go. And now they say there's a manhunt underway, but they apparently don't know who they're looking for. But the gunman did kill the young woman who was the vice president of the campus Republicans organization. And that's one of 2 people murdered, 9 more shot and wounded. And the gunman, I don't want to assume that it's a man, but it's probably a man and probably not a woman. Could be transgender. They've been doing a lot of that, transgender suicide attacks, Democrat suicide attacks, Democrat self-immolations. The jihad doesn't have much on the Democrats at this point. Man, oh man. Now, the attack on Jews beginning to celebrate Hanukkah in Sydney, Australia, led to this guy's great. Daniel Flesch is his name, and he represents the Israeli government at the United Nations. He was on the Fox News channel in the 5 a.m. hour this morning. Daniel Flesch with the Israeli government representing Israel at the United Nations.
As the president said, be proud Jews. And beyond that, I'd say to be proud Americans and proud Westerners, because the attack you're showing right now in Australia wasn't an attack just on Jews, obviously anti-Semitic, but to recognize that it's an attack on Australia, it's an attack on the West. It is what those who have been claiming or advocating to globalize the Intifada, it's what they are doing.
That's right. This is globalizing the Intifada. And who supports globalizing the Intifada? The new Democrat mayor incoming, the mayor-elect of New York City, Zohran Mamdani, was asked a while back, because the Democrats love chanting globalize the Intifada, which means kill Jews anywhere you find them on the planet. And he was asked, well, that should be denounced, shouldn't it? And he said, no, I really don't think it should.
Does that just make you uncomfortable? Like the phrase globalized intifada, from the river to the sea, does that make you uncomfortable?
I know people for whom those things mean very different things. And to me, ultimately, what I hear in so many is a desperate desire for equality and equal rights in standing up for Palestinian human rights.
Globalize the Intifada is not about standing up for Palestinian rights. It's about killing every Jew on earth. And he is a filthy jihadi who might as well have an AK-47 slung over his shoulder and bandoleros across his chest. The incoming Democrat mayor of New York, the mayor-elect of New York City, might as well be Osama bin Laden. And the Democrats elected him to be if they could make him president, he's foreign-born jihadi. So, but they would make him president of the United States. They're making him mayor of New York City. It's the biggest mayoral job in the United States of America. And, yeah, well, it means different things to different people. Kill the Jews, river to the sea. That means wipe every Jew off the face of the earth in Israel so that the jihadis can take it over and stone women to death again. Bring stoning back again. Lindsey Graham, who isn't normally a ferocious advocate for anything, was riled up yesterday talking about the massacre in Australia. We had the 11 people gunned down at Brown University. We had the Democrat Party as part of the jihad. Lindsey Graham yesterday.
Radical Islam. Radical Islam wants to kill all the Jews. They want to kill 2 soldiers from Iowa. This is a religious war.
West Virginia.
They hate us because we're Christians, we're infidels, and they want to kill all the Jews.
That's true. Actually, we had 2 Americans killed in Syria last week. We had 2 American guardsmen gunned down in Washington, D.C. By another guy yelling, "Free, free Palestine," a Latino from from Chicago. The Democrat Party is the most dangerous threat to civilization on earth. And Lindsey Graham is right. And he's not always right. And of course, Daniel Flesch was right. This is a war against civilization that they're witnessing here. And most of them don't recognize it. Lindsey Graham going after the left-wing Australian Prime Minister.
To the Australian government, you let your people down. The man who was killed, the rabbi that was killed in this attack, wrote a letter to the Prime Minister of Australia weeks ago asking him to reconsider recognizing the Palestinian state. To every Western government who's recognized a Palestinian state, you're rewarding killing Jews. It's the most irresponsible decision I can imagine. What state are you recognizing? Is it controlled by Hamas? What are you recognizing here? When you kill Jews, you get a state, you're going to get more killing of Jews.
And that's pretty predictable stuff. It has been for a long time. Rabbi Eli Schlanger was murdered by the savages in Sydney, Australia, Bondi Beach. He had written an urgent letter to the Australian Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, several weeks ago before the massacre, imploring the Prime Minister to take a firm stand in support of Israel, and instead of what he did, supporting a Palestinian state. That's what he's calling for. Lindsey Graham.
So I would urge the West to get tougher on radical Islam. The rabbi who begged the Prime Minister to reverse his decision to recognize the Palestinian state is now dead.
He's now dead because he was murdered by a jihadi, because you lily-livered left-wing Prime Minister are a disgrace to the history and the customs of Australia. There is a global war going on. We are at war. We're at war, or we're not at war, but global jihad is at war with us. And if you don't recognize what's going on, then you need to educate yourself. This has been going on since the day I started radio. 20 years ago, I've been talking about the global jihad against the West and against civilization. And the Democrat Party has joined the jihad. They have effectively joined the jihad against civilization. They're from the river to the sea. They're kill all the Jews, free Gaza, Palestine. They've been free for longer, had their own elections. They dug tunnels so they could kidnap Jews and rape them and kill them. They're not fit to live with civilized people on Earth. Just saying. I've got more coming up. Lindsey Graham there, too. Hey, Christmas is coming up pretty quick, too. And as we celebrate life, you and I, all of us, have a great opportunity to share that same gift with a mother in need and her baby also in need. Imagine a young woman facing an unplanned pregnancy, unsure what to do. She's searching for hope and for direction, and that's where preborn ministries come in. There's an amazing story of a young woman who was unmarried when she found out about her pregnancy, and when the angel Gabriel announced that she would conceive by way of the Holy Spirit, it was quite a shocking moment. I think you know the story I'm referring to. Every mother preborn serves faces a moment of decision when she sees her baby on an ultrasound, waving and winking and kicking around. In that moment, the young mother has an opportunity to say yes to life. Preborn's mission is to help that young mother find the courage and the support that she needs to make the right decision. This Christmas, for just $28, you can help save a human life. And thanks to a special matching grant, through the end of the year, your gift will be doubled as well, no matter how big your gift is. To donate, just dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby when prompted. That's dial pound 250, the keyword is baby. Or you can go to Al Gore's Amazing Internet to preborn.com/plant. That's me, preborn.com/PLANTE. Thank you in advance. A great Christmas gift. All right, more. We've got more. And I hate to say it, Lindsey Graham being strong yesterday. He had more good stuff. Well, President Trump's post on social media on Truth is getting a lot of attention on the Rob Reiner thing. I got to say, I had to shake my head real hard at that one and say, why would he do that? And it was funny because I was saying earlier, and I was going back and forth with my friend Brian, conservatives aren't celebrating the murder of Rob Reiner and his wife the way that Democrats celebrated the murder, the assassination of Charlie Kirk and the shooting of Donald Trump. And, they love blood up in the streets. It's up to their ankles. And then moments later, President Trump would say, well, he's only dead because of Trump derangement syndrome. And if that turns out to be the case, related to Trump derangement syndrome, it would be news to me, and it wouldn't be entirely shocking, honestly. But I just don't see. Looks like his crazy drug-addled son is once again the number one suspect. I don't think that post by President Trump was advisable or helpful or productive in any way, and now President Trump's under attack, of course. Okay, we are back. I have more audio to share with you, and President Trump's statement on Rob Reiner getting a lot of reaction, let's say. Also, a fun headline from the good people at the Babylon Bee again. The headline is Mohammed. It's a portrait of the Prophet Muhammad on an oriental rug with an ornate backdrop. He's wearing a turban and he has a beard. And there's somebody bowing before him and he has a beard and a turban. It says, Mohammed upset as Democrats keep calling Islam a religion of peace. See, Mohammed is upset. You can't call this a religion of pieces. That's after the explosion like that. But never mind that. Let's go to the telephones, and I have more audio and more stories to get to. Let's go to Jim, calling from beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Jimmy, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Good morning, Chris. Great show again. Just to give you some feedback here on Australia. When I was in the Marine Corps, I was shipped over to Vietnam, and I had a layover in Saigon, which is now Ho Chi Minh City, and I met a couple of Australian Marines, and we had a chance to talk to each other. These guys were hardcore. I mean, professionals, no nonsense, do anything, for you. and I happened to have a couple of drinks with them. They were drinking Johnny Walker Black, and I didn't know what neat meant. And it was about 100 degrees there, and I had a shot full of Johnny Walker Black, and I spent 2 days in sick bay from alcohol poisoning. These guys drank the whole damn bottle, and I tell you, Chris, they didn't blink an eye. These were real men. What's happened to Australia? Where'd they go? Where'd all the men go?
Well, I got to tell you, they tried to, there was our Australian friend, Jason, was talking earlier how in the 1990s there was a mass shooting in Australia. And so they did everything they could to ban guns. And now there's a jihadi attack, and the Liberal Prime Minister, his goal is to ban guns. But listen, Jim, it's not just Australia. Western civilization in France, in Great Britain, in Italy, in Germany, in the United States, in Australia, Western civilization is losing its ability to defend itself and to stand up for itself. I think that really is what we're witnessing. And when Democrats, so-called liberals in New York, elect Zoran Mamdani, who's a genocidal, Jew-hating, racist, radical, extremist, leftist, and the news media, they applaud him and they applaud the voters, and it's insanity. We're going to get more and more people killed in these kinds of attacks. And Westerns, I got to tell you, Jim, here's the bottom line. We're at war. You're a Marine. We are at war. The United States is at war right now. It's an asymmetric war that we're dealing with. And asymmetric warfare looks very different than traditional war on a battlefield between major armies. But the radical Islamists, and there are a great many radical Islamist organizations around the world, I'm sure you're aware, Indonesia, the Philippines, Southeast Asia, they're angling into Latin America right now, certainly throughout the Middle East and Central Asia. And there's a war going on, Jim, against Western civilization in the most grandiose sense that's been going on for centuries. But the Islamists are on a tear. And they're, again, in Great Britain, the most popular name for a newborn baby is Mohammed. And the second most popular name for a newborn baby is Mohammed by a different spelling. And they're giving up areas. We're doing it in Minnesota and in Minneapolis. We're going to have no-go zones where Sharia law rules and where entire school systems will be taken over. Ilhan Omar is a symbol of the jihad, the cultural jihad being waged inside the United States. There's the actual warfare component, and there are the social and cultural jihad elements. And we don't recognize them. We don't call them out. Our political leaders are spineless, gelatinous losers who would give up Western civilization in a heartbeat. And, Jim, it's time we started calling it out for what it is and doing it out loud, because we are in the midst of a war, and we have to admit that first, acknowledge that, and and then we have to combat it socially, culturally, politically, and with guns in certain circumstances. Right, Jim?
Well, I agree with you, Chris. Here's a theory of mine. I was a history teacher when I got out of the service in Chicago schools. That was a combat zone, too. But Europe went through 2 world wars, 2 generations, shot to pieces. All the good men are gone. All the genetic pool was drained. That's just I'm not being a racist. I'm just saying all these young men are gone from 2 world wars, and Europe has never recovered from that.
That's
right.
What
do you think?
Oh, that's 100% right. And then the left is so politically correct, and all of their deconstructed yada yada that brown people are victims. So the jihadis are victims, and Israelis somehow are Semites, but they're not brown, and they're the villains of the story. Western civilization has to start standing up for itself, and I'm in favor of that.
I hear you, Chris. And we need to pray more.
That too.
Remember Rome collapsed from within.
Yep.
And you're seeing the same things happen in the United States.
Yes, we are. That is a fact, Jack. Be right back. It's funny, early this morning, the headline was Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle, were killed by their son. People magazine. then for like 4 hours, they said, oh, no, we don't have a suspect. We don't have anything. We don't know. We don't know nothing. And now it's the son apparently in custody, being held on $4 million bail, but never mind that. Also, anybody see the Army-Navy game? My best girl and I, we actually were invited to go to the Army-Navy game in Baltimore, and we, for a variety of reasons, opted not to. But we ended up at home, just the two of us, with the Army-Navy game, and boy, it was an action-packed gang. It was a lot of fun. It was good. It was good, and Navy won. And I was, I come from a largely Navy background, and I was rooting for Navy, and it was a heck of a football game, wasn't it? Yes, it was. Also, this is a wild story. I liked this story. Gun sales in the United States of America, gun sales in the U.S. hit a 6-year low. Every year that Barack Hussein Obama was living in the White House, he was the gun salesman of the year at every gun store in America. They had postcards and pictures of Barack Obama smiling like with an award in his hand because once again he won the gun salesman of the year. His presidency prompted hundreds of millions, I think, certainly many millions of gun sales. But after years of record-setting demand, U.S. gun sales have fallen to their lowest level in 6 years. Isn't that amazing? That's great. With Republicans holding the Congress and the White House, political pressure that once fueled surging sales has largely disappeared. And this is pretty interesting, actually, because when the Democrats are in power, everybody believes Second Amendment supporters, Bill of Rights supporters, believe that the left is here to take your rights away and take your property away. So gun sales go wild and go through the roof. And now President Trump is in. No threat to your firearms, no threat to the Second Amendment, no threat to the Bill of Rights. And so gun sales are down. Isn't that fascinating? And my great friends at Atlantic Guns, up the road from here, I've been working with our great friends at Atlantic Guns for many years, and I think that they're doing great. They are doing great. Also in Washington D.C., the chief of police has been nailed now. This is a pretty extraordinary story. Department of Justice report on D.C. police says that the chief created a culture of fear. And here's the bigger, broader picture here, and that is that they lied about the crime stats. That's what happened. They lied about the crime stats to lie to me and the taxpayers and on, that, hey, look, all our crime numbers are down because Democrats lie about everything. And so now it turns out that I assume it all comes from the mayor, but the police chief, who's now stepping down as the chief of police, or as we like to say, the Pief of Chalice, and she's stepping down as police chief in Washington, D.C. But it turns out that for years and years now, they have been lying about the crime stats, pretending that they're lower than usual. You get a burglary, call it an illegal entry. Oh, my God, look at the clock. Call it an illegal entry or something. And then the murders. Well, is that a gunshot wound, assault with a deadly weapon? They say it's accidental. They say it's this and that. So they've been lying about the crime stats for so long now that just amazing, I've got to tell you. And now the police chief in Washington, D.C. is she'll probably be picked up someplace else for more money, no doubt, because that's what usually happens in these situations, isn't it? But it is a kind of an amazing development that the D.C. police chief, the rest of the world doesn't care, of course, but the D.C. police chief is out, and it turns out they've been lying about crime stats for years, because they're Democrats, and they don't care about the truth. They care about what kind of headlines they're getting.
Please! This is supposed to be a happy occasion. Let's not bicker and argue about who killed who.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah, so the Department of Justice report on D.C. police says the chief created a culture of fear. That's among the officers. She's a woman of color, a WOC. A woman? Looking kind of bulky. I don't know. A draft report on a crime statistics investigation by U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro and her office takes aim at Pamela Smith, who on Monday last week announced her resignation. She announced her resignation from the police force. But Justice Department investigation in D.C. police found that the Pifachalice, Pamela A. Smith, created a culture of fear, a coercive culture of fear that may have incentivized the manipulation of crime statistics, according to a draft of a report obtained by the Washington Post. Citing a review of thousands of police reports and interviews with more than 50 witnesses, 7-page report concludes that D.C. police crime statistics were, quote, likely unreliable and inaccurate, end quote, because of misclassifications, errors, and purposefully downgrading crime classifications. Isn't that amazing? And I was going back and forth with a police officer, a friend of mine, as a matter of fact, and he said, burglaries were classified as unlawful entry, which is a misdemeanor instead of a felony, and on and on. They're corrupt people, very corrupt people. Hey, wait, I still have audio, don't I? Yeah, I do. 3 hours just go by so quickly. Lindsey Graham on the jihad and Western civilization being under attack.
I am telling you that if you recognize a Palestinian state after October the 7th, where you have not negotiated a new West Bank, a new Gaza free from Islamic terrorist control, you're incentivizing killing Jews.
Yeah, and if you're the Democrat Party and you're chanting from the river to the sea on college campuses and globalize the Intifada, you're inciting a global conflagration, a global war, an out-of-control fire, cultural fire, violence and murder and mass murder and jihadi attacks. And the Democrat Party, they're in it up to their crusty, demented eyeballs.
The signal is you attack and kill 1,200 Jewish people, the world will recognize a Palestinian state. The best way to get a Palestinian state is to kill Jews. That's what the message is being sent from Australia, France, and Germany. France can't even have a Christmas celebration because they're worried about radical Islam in their midst.
Yeah, radical Islam in their midst, and we have to recognize it. I don't know for how many generations this has to go on before we call it out for what it is. And if these savages just want to have war against civilization, then we don't want to. But at some point, like with the Socialist Workers' Party of Adolf Hitler, like with the spread of communism in the 20th century, we will stand up and face that threat and deal with that threat. Lindsey Graham.
Obama and Biden were wrecking balls. Obama withdrew all of our forces from Iraq. I begged him not to. ISIS took over Iraq and Syria. Raqqa, Syria became a launching pad for attacks against the West. President Trump destroyed the caliphate. President Biden withdrew from Afghanistan, setting in motion radicalization the entire planet, Russia invading Ukraine. President Trump has been dealing with a wrecking ball of Obama and Biden.
That's all true. I got to say, I was listening to Lindsey Graham, watching him on television yesterday, and I was surprised by how accurate and truthful what he's saying was, how blunt it was. Just amazing stuff. And we live in a dangerous world. There are a lot of very bad people, and good people must organize, stand up, acknowledge the reality, the truth, and say it out loud. And at some point, we may have to actually fight them. John Fetterman is, he's he had that stroke and he hasn't gotten completely better. And he's a Democrat senator from Pennsylvania. He was on yesterday. And And he's right about a lot of things. He's not always wrong. John Fetterman was right yesterday.
Look at the kind of language, and look at the races, for the Senate in 2026 cycle. One of the signature issues is being anti-Israel and saying these incredibly anti-Israel kinds of views on Israel, and it's super, super critical.
The what? Anti-Israel? What is the whole thing there? Benjamin Netanyahu went on television last night to call out the Australian Prime Minister, who's a lefty, because Netanyahu has talked to him about how they've opened the floodgates in Australia for the jihad to move in.
On August 17th, about 4 months ago, I sent Prime Minister Albanese of Australia a letter in which I gave him warning that the Australian government's policy was promoting and encouraging anti-Semitism in Australia. I wrote, "Your call for a Palestinian state pours fuel on the anti-Semitic fire. It rewards Hamas terrorism. It emboldens those who menace Australian Jews and encourages the Jew hatred now stalking your streets."
Netanyahu is he understands the threat. That's for sure. I was just provided with an article by my friend Bill, an interesting at cyphernews.com. I'm going to say the thing nobody's saying about Rob Reiner's murder by Jet Cross. Jet Cross. Pretty good stuff today, naturally. And Jet here, politics didn't just get louder over the last decade. It got uglier, meaner, and way more personal. But when Trump came down that escalator, he didn't start the fire. He exposed it. And he begins and he goes in and he talks about how Rob Reiner became one of Hollywood's loudest anti-Trump voices, to the point where activism seemed to replace everything else in his life. The career faded to where activism seemed to replace everything else in his life. This is what President Trump was talking about. And now go into the background. It's Trump hatred. Now, whether that had anything to do with his murder or not, I don't think we know yet. But